I'm going to go ahead and start recording today's webinar. And how are you today, Shane? Griffin? Unfortunately, my video is not working, but my audio is. So
okay.
I am here, Shane.
That's okay. It's good to hear you. Thanks again, always to you and to Tamara for all that your work that you guys do behind the scenes to make sure that we run as efficiently as possible. This is an all-volunteer organization, as we've talked about many times, except for Rebecca and Tamara, and we really appreciate the efforts that you and Tamara put forth for the good of the organization, Rebecca. So thank you very much for helping us get Mondays with the mayor set up today. And at this time, I'll welcome the Honorable Will Haynie, as well as Lauren Sims from the town of Mount Pleasant. Good to see you both. Hello there.
Hello, Shane.
Again, thank you both for your time. This has been fun for me to be able to tap into the knowledge of the town of Mount Pleasant and to Mayor Haynie and kind of get the scoop on what's happening. And we really appreciate the time that you've taken each and every week to do this. I know our members really do appreciate it because it gives them an opportunity to hear it straight from the horse's mouth and get the scoop. So we do really appreciate both of your time. Before we kind of get started, I thought we'd take a moment of brevity here because we had a conversation earlier today about backgrounds and the Zoom and all the things that our new normal has introduced us to. And I thought this might be a good exercise for each of us to go through to kind of help our members and try to give some advice on how we have continued to run our businesses in this age of Zoom. And if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, I'll start with ladies first and I'll give it to Lauren and just ask Lauren that question. You know, this has been a challenge. Obviously, Lauren, you're working from home, but you're still able to get things done. And, you know, how do you do that? How do you stay disciplined each and every day?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I did not like it at first. I think everyone thinks that working from home, everything is great. It's perfect. You're at home all day. But I was someone who liked going to the office. I liked having separate workspace and home space. And so that was a little bit of a challenge for me at first. But once I think established a new routine was what did it for me. And I think one of the reasons why I liked going into the office was because it was part of a routine. And so I established a new routine here, and that's what has been, I think, helpful to me. You know, I know that I work best in the mornings. That's when all my creative work happens. So I try to schedule all of my creative work to the extent possible for the morning time. And then I use, you know, the afternoon slump to go through and do some of like my administrative tasks, things that don't require a whole lot of brain power. And so just kind of scheduling my day that way, as opposed to just fitting things in whenever I wasn't in a physical meeting at town hall, that has been really helpful. But the other thing is, you know, I think, I don't know, maybe having a little bit more work-life balance has been a good thing for me because, you know, instead of, like I said, the afternoon slump, instead of heading to the vending machine for the Snickers bar, I can get up and do the quick loop around my neighborhood and, you know, just kind of re-energizes me and gets me through the rest of the day. So that's been a really nice addition that I didn't have previously. So that's how I'm getting through it.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that feedback. Sounds very similar to my day, but I'll give it off to the mayor. Mr. Mayor, what are you doing to stay disciplined and work from home? You've obviously got your business, and then obviously in your position as mayor, you've got a lot going on. How do you stay focused and disciplined each day at home?
It's not easy. I think all of us are dealing with a crisis situation, and I have had to, first of all, make the mental adjustment that regardless of what my best intended schedule is, that you hate to say you're not in control, but you know, we all sort of triage our priorities every day. And I know, Lauren, you're a new mom and everything, or not so new anymore, but yeah, keep forgetting it's been a while. But I have come to build into my schedule for the day the factor for the unknown. I found out that before COVID, that just as mayor, that all the demands of that I could only seriously plan 50% of my day, or let me be more precise. I could only expect that 50% of the time that I planned for my day, I would actually get to use as planned. Let me put it that way. I planned the whole thing. But it's even worse with this. Like all of a sudden yesterday, I find out, and we'll get to this later, I've got a Zoom conference at 6 o'clock tonight. Well, I hadn't planned on that. And less than 24 hours notice, but that's part of dealing with life. The other thing, and we'll just sort of throw the whole Zoom dynamic into this, is that I was part of an interview where I was one of the people doing the interview over the last week or 10 days, and just had an experience, a positive experience with a candidate for a position where through Zoom, this person made such a good impression and came across so well that I made note to myself to talk about that in here, because Shane, you're in sales, and even though you can shed light on, phone versus Zoom and all that, we're going to be Zooming a lot more. And there's a lot of things to think about with Zoom. Think about what you're going to say. Think about your background. You can see mine back here and this type thing. And I've actually had somebody help me, that not on purpose. I didn't go hire a consultant, but I had to do a video for the one region effort. And they had a professional, and she said, well, turn on your Zoom, move that lamp, adjust the picture, said, try to get that door a little more out of the picture like that, and those type things. So there are things to think about. And the other part as mayor that was hard to get used to, and it's not as much now as it was during March and April because people are out and about a little more, but doing an actual TV interview at home at night over my own, my own tablet that I'm doing now. Think about this. How would you feel if you found out in an hour a live TV crew was going to be coming into your home and into your study, and you're going to go on TV? I've never had that happen. I've never had them come in my home, but now with Zoom, they come into my home. So I've just taken, a little bit of advice and fixed up the background and moved the lights a little bit. I have a light up here, putting a little more light on my face, because as you can see, this room is kind of dark. But all of that is to say, you want your business to thrive, you want to do well, and this is the new reality.
Absolutely. I would agree with a lot of what you both have said. I'm like Lauren, I have to have a place to go. So when this all started, I was doing I would get dressed with a shirt, but I put on like a pair of shorts. And that it wasn't doing it for me. So now I actually get dressed like I'm going to the office.
Yes.
And go downstairs and get ready for the day. And then I typically spend a large percentage of the day, almost all of it, here in my personal study, because I've got multiple screens and I can be on the phone, and it's a place where I can go, close the door, be left alone, and stay focused and disciplined enough to know that despite being in a different place, I still have things I have to accomplish. I still have to stay on task. And so that for me has been it was a bigger challenge at the beginning. Now, we're 4 months into this thing, and I've gotten a lot more comfortable with being in my study and staying on track. But, for those that are watching today, I would say if you struggle, you're not the only one. I was that way. I have to go somewhere. And now that we can't go anywhere, if you can replicate your home area like it was at the office and just pretend that you're there and stay as focused and as disciplined as possible, I think that will really, really help you. And as far as the background, I put these bookshelves in, and I've been meaning to put my study together. And, the COVID crisis and the Zoom, it kind of forced me to do that. Got a great deal on them as well. So couldn't pass that up. But yeah, it's been a challenging time, to say the least, if you're in small business and running a business. Most of my job is done over the phone and by email. I have some Zoom meetings, but I've been on 3 in-person sales calls in 4 months.
Wow.
And before this, I was doing 4 calls in person a day. So for me, it's a big change of pace to have to operate that people are most comfortable with. So hopefully this has been helpful for the folks that are watching, and we really appreciate the feedback. So let's get on with the business, Mr. Mayor. I know tomorrow you've got a council meeting, and we've got lots of stuff to cover. Regular council business. There'll be some discussions about the plastics ban and the temporary signs, and then also too possible impact fees adjustment. A lot on the docket. So fill us in on what we can expect tomorrow.
Sure. We at our June meeting extended the we set aside the plastic ordinance and the signs, temporary signs for restaurants. So we made that last until this meeting. Whether or not it will get extended again to where you can use just any plastics or you can put the temporary signs out, I don't know. There are a lot of different views on our council about the severity of this and what government's role ought to be. So on the one side, you probably saw at our last meeting where we did the mask ordinance, an emergency ordinance of council failed by 1 vote because it takes a super majority. It takes 6 out of the 9. So on the one hand, we're not under an emergency and we don't have any emergency measures like being able to meet by Zoom and that type thing. And on the other hand, there will probably be some desire to give businesses a break with these things. So I really don't know where those two are going to go. I've been out a lot and looking. Let me just throw out there, I have seen a dramatic increase in mask wearing at a lot of places. I know there's places where it's not good. I know there's places where there's staff not wearing them. I get it. And I see the social media sites, but by and large, the grocery stores, the home supply stores, the big retailers, I have seen a lot more masks than I used to. The other things we'll be talking about at council this week is there is a recommendation from the finance committee to change the impact fee discount rate. Let me give a little bit of background on this. Impact fees are not a dues that we set so that you can come play in our club and be a member of our town and business. Impact fees are based on a study that was done by Stantec Engineering back in 16 and 17. And they were initially done in 1999 when Mount Pleasant was the first municipality in the state to actually have impact fees. Well, what are impact fees for? And I know people feel certain ways about them, but let's get beyond how we feel and let's talk about what the law recognizes and what you're able to do. The infrastructure that we have in our town right now has been bought and paid for by the current taxpayers. So if you come in and you add to the use of the recreation or transportation, like roads and everything, or police and fire and those things, someone else has paid for that. And so if you come in and you profit from increasing the use of that, the impact fee reflects the fact that we have a study, not a political opinion, not an opinion of whether development is good or bad, but we have a study that says, each new hotel adds this much strain or usage to your existing transportation infrastructure. This kind of new house, residential, single family residential, adds this much more use on your recreation. And all that does is as we grow, that fee, and it goes into, call it a trust fund. It's not something we can go, oh, look at all these fees impact fees we're gonna get from this development. Let's use it for this or that. No, you can't do that. So there's a good arbitrary way that these things are applied. So the long and short of it is when you set those, you see that, okay, a single family home adds this much use or this much cost to recreation. You see what that 100% is and you apply the discount rate. So when this was voted on in 2017, it was set at 80% across the board. We know it costs this much. You're going to pay as a developer this much, and the taxpayers are going to subsidize the other 20%. That's the discount rate. So I sat in on all the other committee meetings last week, but I missed the finance committee. So I'm going to be looking at this today and ready to work on it tomorrow. But I think they want to discount the transportation impact fee, which would basically be commercial, even though you can't set it one for commercial and one for residential. But what would go to transportation, move that from 80 down to 50 and move recreation from 50 up to, I believe it's 90 or 95. Well, what you got to do is you got to look at this and say, okay, what's the financial impact going to be? And especially on transportation, because remember, council approved last October, I think it was, 245,000 square feet at Patriots Point for the Patriots Annex. It's going to be built by Bennett Development. So if that fee all of a sudden goes from 80% down to 50%, we have got to figure out what's that going to do to our transportation infrastructure. So it's not a done deal. It's set up for first reading tomorrow night, but I think what I'm going to try to do as chairman of the Transportation Committee is ask that it go to the Transportation Committee first, because we need to assess this. So you might hear talk about that, signs and plastics. And then there's regular business. You know, we did some things in June about the planning stuff, new things coming into town, new things annexing and all of that. But our planning commission did not meet until after our June meeting. So we actually have a full slate of things under planning for council. So I don't think there's anything controversial in there. I sat through that committee. I don't remember any huge controversial things, but I'll take a look at that. So that's what we'll be getting to this week. I want to remind everybody that July 1st, we started the new fiscal year for the town of Mount Pleasant. We always have a balanced budget that we pass. By law, we have to, but any negative impacts from all of the COVID crisis will show up in this year's budget. It will not show up in the budget we just concluded June 30th, which I was told by the administrator that we will finish 2020, that we just closed on June 30th, with a budget surplus, which is good news.
Well, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for that update. Obviously, too, for the members that may not know, you can watch council meetings on YouTube. Just head to YouTube and search Mount Pleasant Town Council, and you can watch all of the council meetings there. You can also watch some of the committee meetings as well on YouTube. Just do a search of Mount Pleasant Town Council. I try to watch as many of those as possible, because you do glean a lot of good information from watching those council meetings. So I highly recommend that for folks that are watching today to take advantage of that. Well, Mr. Mayor, you spoke earlier about the Zoom call you have. I understand you have a Zoom call coming up later tonight with other municipalities to talk about some uniformity across the region, possibly. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, over the weekend, we started getting some messages from a couple of state senators. You know, the Senate, the way the legislature set up, there's not much the legislature can do in a crisis like this. The legislature doesn't do hurricane evacuations. The legislature didn't spring into action when we had the bridge crisis in 2018. It falls on the executive branch of the state government. So they wanted all the mayors of the Low Country from Beaufort County up to come together and compare notes and see what we can do. We all know that, you know, as I said in a press conference, to paraphrase Jimmy Buffett, we are the people that other states warn their people about now. You know, we're the people our parents warned us about. Other states are quarantining our business people when they travel there to do business, and when their people come back from here. So our numbers are not great. We're not panicking. And I want to say something I've said again before. The death rate is not necessarily the leading indicator. The leading indicator, and the one that we should be the most mindful of, is the hospitalization rate. And I just saw today there are 1,500 people hospitalized across the state, and 200 of those are on ventilators. And I know that the numbers of hospitalized patients at MUSC and at the Roper St. Francis system, which includes Mount Pleasant, has more than doubled. So it's really got our attention. The stigma, as it were, of being a hot spot should have our attention. So at 6 o'clock tonight, there's going to be a Zoom meeting. I don't know if there's public access. I didn't set it up. I'm just an invitee. And we will be talking about what we can do. And I think two of the things would be, one is to try to get the counties to do an all-encompassing mask ordinance. And look how things have changed in over 2 weeks. Isle of Palms voted it down, and then the same week they voted for it. North Charleston didn't want one. By the end of the week, the mayor did one by executive proclamation. Same with Goose Creek. They voted it down, and then my good friend Greg Habib did one by mayoral proclamation. So as the numbers increase and the news and you know goes out worse and worse about our region, the whole mindset has changed. So I would like to see Charleston County have one uniform mask ordinance. Beaufort County, Dorchester, Berkeley, I think it would be great. So that would be one, is uniformity of mask ordinances. And number two is, we think we know anecdotally, and I don't mean to just throw things out there, but we think we know that the heavy tourism of our popular areas, you know, where, I don't want to name any by name, but where there's lots of bars and nightlife and everything, are probably adding to our spread here at home. And I don't mean it's a come ya, been ya thing, but I think we know that lots and lots of people are coming here, and our workers and people working in our businesses are I just saw one of our local businesses in Mount Pleasant is going to be shutting down for 2 days to do COVID testing and stuff. I hate to see that. And the object is to not have businesses closed down. So I think this group of mayors will try to get to where maybe we can work with the bar and restaurant owners and see what we can do to get better social distancing and just some better practices going on. Not that it's their fault, but I think we're getting a lot of tourists that are coming in from other areas. I've seen some Airbnbs near me with 8 or 10, 20 something, and all their license plates are out of state, and they're probably hitting 4 or 5 bars a night. And we got to address that. That it's plain and simple.
Well, Lauren, on that track, I wanted to come to you. I know you talked to a lot of business owners over the course of a week. I know you mentioned it's been fairly quiet the last week or so, but I know at least for me, being out in the community, I am starting to see a lot of people are wearing masks and taking it very seriously. There are some places that will not let you in unless you have a mask on. So we kind of want to get your feedback, what you're hearing from business owners in Mount Pleasant.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It has been a fairly quiet week from businesses, but I will say for ones that I have heard from previously, I think the mask ordinance was kind of a welcome thing for them. It was a little awkward, I think, otherwise to ask folks to put on a mask to come into the business. And now we're seeing businesses that aren't even actually required by our ordinance to require masks, that they're going ahead and taking that step. They feel empowered to do so. And that's great. We're happy to see businesses that are actively encouraging folks or requiring it even. It's just one more thing that we can do to help kind of knock this down and prevent further spread. So, but that's other than that, it's been fairly quiet from businesses, but that to me signals that everyone's kind of getting into the new groove. There aren't questions out there that need to be answered, things of that nature. They all seem to have it figured out and know what they need to do and are just keeping working and keeping moving forward during this unprecedented time.
Absolutely. Well, again, thanks to you both for your time today. Mr. Mayor, before we let you both go, anything else you wanted to add today?
Yeah, we're doing our best to manage this. I want to say again, it's not the government that's closing businesses down, it's the virus. The virus is the enemy, not each other, not differing opinions. We kind of have a perfect storm. We have economic uncertainty, we have an unprecedented viral epidemic, and we have an election year. And it's right for people to really get mad at each other and really hurt relationships over.
And it's hot.
Things.
It's very hot.
And it's hot. And if you throw some civil unrest into there, I mean, there are more protests in our region than I can remember in the last 10 or 15. There are more protests than there were after the Emanuel 9 massacre, as horrible as that was. But let's remember, we know what we can do to stop this virus. I don't like the prospect of a fall without high school sports or college sports. I don't want to see that happen. And if we will wear our mask and do our social distancing and, wash our hands and just do those things, I mean, we are empowered. We have the power to turn these numbers around. And I mean, we as individuals, I don't mean the government. So we're going to try to do these things. I ask everybody to do it. I think the mask ordinance is working. Remember, the medical university says there's 2 weeks between anything that's enacted and when it shows up in the numbers. It was that way with stay-at-home orders, and it'll be that way with the mask. So we're not at 2 weeks yet. So let's take a look at that. Let's fight this virus. And then let's remember what we opened this with about the new business reality. We want business to be strong in Mount Pleasant. I want everybody to do well in sales if they have to do it by Zoom or teleconference. Read those books, look at the new norm. Look at this go on Twitter, look at Rate My Room, so that when you think you're making a good sales presentation, you aren't doing what they call a hostage video, where there's no background, no good lighting, and people think, what's wrong with you? And the other thing too is, remember, no matter what you're drinking, it always goes in a coffee cup, the Mount Pleasant one. So the coffee cup is key. You got to have that coffee cup always. But I hear from businesses that things are better. I'm not talking to anybody who's saying they're making a killing in business right now, but I have talked to some business owners that say that they were glad to see the restaurant owners, the numbers go back up. I don't know the real reason why we've had some significant restaurant closures in Mount Pleasant, like Cracker Barrel and Carrabba's and Rusty Rudder, and I know I'm leaving a couple out, but we need to take a look at that and figure it out. I think I know, and I would say this as a business thing too. One of the things we have learned in this is that we as a region cannot survive on tourism alone. It's huge, it's big, and we value it, and it is the goose that kind of laid the golden egg. But we have to have resiliency, and that means doing business with the people who live here and having a good local clientele. And I think the businesses that I've seen, again, anecdotally, especially restaurants and things that have done well during this, even the takeout only time, are those who had a strong local following and a strong sense of belonging in the community. So whether you're a franchise or a locally owned business, let's keep the community in our business. And I know Lauren has, and we've been trying to tell our people, our citizens in the town of Mount Pleasant, please support the businesses in Mount Pleasant.
Well, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for those comments. I actually cut out something and taped on my computer, which is very interesting. So in this time of uncertainty, and when you feel like things are completely out of your control, I tried to get it off my computer to show it now, but I taped it down pretty well. So if anybody's interested in this, this art, let me know, Shane at mountpleasantchamber.org. But basically it has a circle. In the circle is green, and outside of the circle is all red. And so at the top of this, it says things outside of my control. That's everything that's in red outside the circle. Actions, other people's actions, other people's feelings, adversity, other people's mistakes, other people's opinions. Inside the circle, things I can control, my attitude, my effort, my behavior, and my actions. So I think, at least for me, over the past few months, continually looking at that piece of art that's on my computer has really kind of helped me kind of get through this and realize that if I can control my attitude, my effort, my behavior, and my actions, and not worry about everything else that's going on out here, right, it might be a little bit easier to kind of navigate this. I'll also say that my good friend John Carroll put me on to this artwork, and he and I have talked about that strategy over a number of years, but now it's really kind of come to the forefront and something that I'd really try to make sure that I see on a regular basis. So good. Thank you for that. Really do appreciate it. A quick reminder to our members that are watching, we have lunch coming up this Thursday. It will be virtual, so be sure to be checking your email for the opportunity to register for that. It will be our regular monthly luncheon. This will be our third virtual monthly luncheon that we will do. Also, another reminder to visit our Coronavirus Resource Center page. Very simple, visit mountpleasantchamber.org. Click the Coronavirus Resource Center page there at the top, and you'll be directed to that page, and there's all kinds of information in regards to the virus itself, business-related items to the virus, all of our past webinars, all of our past Mondays with the mayor. It's all right there at the Coronavirus Resource Center page. So again, Mr. Mayor, Lauren, as I always say, be safe, stay healthy, keep moving forward. Great to see you too. See you next week.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.